So I think I got this going. I think I am streaming it. Looks like I am. So I did a photo shoot with Crash, Aubrey, and Freddie on last Friday. We got lots of cool pictures. I'm gonna go ahead and try to edit this one here. This is one that Crash sent to me and asked me to if I could take a look at it. So first thing I see right off the bat is we got Aubrey peeking around in the bushes here. I think she was holding a light back there or something. So I'm just gonna quickly clone her out. Probably just use the clone tool. And I'm just going to take a piece of the brush up there and just see what happens if what it looks like just to clone her out. Luckily something like this is usually pretty easy because people don't really pay that much attention to the trees and whatnot. You really can't see if what different branches there are. It just looks like a jumble of branches there, so it's really not gonna be a sore spot if it's not 100% accurate or done. I might clone the light out a little bit too, just because I'm not liking the way that looks. So anyway, I'm gonna leave Aubrey cloned out though. Put some of these branches back in. Okay, so Aubrey's gone. This light, I might clone this light out a little bit too, just to not make it as apparent that there was a light on there. I'm just going to use, again, these branches make it really easy just to clone it out because they're all just a mess of stuff and people aren't going to pay attention to the fact that there's the same thing over and over. A lot of times when you're cloning and you have a hard edge like this, if you start on the edge and work your way away, it just makes it look a lot better. So that's pretty much that. Probably fix this light in a little bit. I think I'm just going to make it more of a round light source. I could probably do that now. So I just don't want it to be apparent that it's actually a light back there. But I think if I just made it something more of a light source, I think it'll look a little bit better. Another thing that I kind of like to do sometimes is when you have a source that's like this, it's kind of cool to kind of show those kind of almost like light trails or something that show where the source is actually coming from. And I'm just using a white brush there and just painting over it basically. And what you can actually do, actually I changed my mind a little bit on this. So again, this is the first time editing this image. I didn't like pre-set this up or anything, and this is kind of how my editing process goes. Is I just kind of play with stuff. I see stuff that I like, and I just see how it works. Basically, I don't really. Sometimes I'll have a set goal or a set plan or a set idea of what I'm going to do, and other times I don't. And this is one of the times where I don't have an idea up front. What I almost want to do with this is kind of make it maybe come around her. A lot of times too, when I'm editing lights and stuff, I don't I don't really like to just paint stuff. I usually will use the curves and adjustment layers. But let's just pretend this light is kind of spilling past her a little bit. You don't have to be too precise on this because we're going to end up using a big Gaussian blur on it anyway. So now we're going to mask it. You can see the mask over here. We're going to go ahead and mask it to white, and that way it displays our curves that we made right here. And now we will just blur that mask. Something big like that. And I'm going to turn this opacity on this down a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is take and flip that mask by hitting Control I to invert, and then we're going to make the background a little bit darker. So it looks like we have a clear, kind of a clear spotlight and some light coming from there that wasn't in the original image. I think I want it to be like this though. So that's that. Another thing we can do, we have this image that's making a little bit dark, and we can actually use it as a little bit of almost a little bit of dodge and burn just by brightening that back up and bringing her back to original brightness. Actually, is what it's doing. It's not actually brightening her. But I think that looks pretty good. It looks like we got a few little lights coming through. Another technique you can do if you want to make it look almost like it's cloudy is just turn the hardness up a little bit and just kind of erase out on the edges. Do a little bit more on the edges than in the center, and just vary your brush size as you erase. I think actually 20% might be too much, and it'll make it look kind of like we have a blurry light source instead of, or a foggy, almost like a foggy background instead of a just a solid, solid light coming from the light. I don't know if we can even tell on the stream what that's doing. It's just making that look a little bit cloudy. Okay, cool. So the next thing I'm going to try to do is tone it a little bit. A lot of times when I tone it, I use gradient maps. You can do all kinds of different effects. Sometimes I always like them, but I'm never actually brave enough to actually stick with one. So I always go for more of a natural skin tone. So some of these look really cool just as you add the toning to them. What a gradient map does is it automatically will fill in colors for lights and darks. So this side is your darks. Anything that's in shadow will get a little bit of this color. Anything in the midtones will get this color, and any of the highlight or bright spots will get this color. So it's cool for doing toning across the entire image, because it will automatically. If you just try to use like solid color, you try to use regular gradient, you end up with everything being kind of one color. Anyway, back to the video. So anyway, I have the gradient map set. You can change this anytime by double clicking on this. And here, I changed the blend mode to a soft light. Now I'm going to change the opacity. I'm going to put it down to probably about 20–25%, something like that. And another thing you can do is you can set it on color too. I usually like soft light though. Now the next thing I'm going to do I think a little bit of frequency separation. There's a couple different ways you can do frequency separation. One of the ways, I have an action that does it for me, which is really nice. I think I'm going to do that because I'm trying to do it from hand. It just takes too long. Oops, I already messed up. So what you have to do is start with a flat layer for your frequency separation and then do it. So what this does is it does a Gaussian layer. You can change how blurry it is. So what frequency separation does is it lets you separate out the texture from the tone on the image, and then that way when you're doing edits, you're not adjusting the texture, you're not adjusting the tone. You can kind of you separate them out basically. So you do one layer as a Gaussian blur, you do another layer as a high pass, and then on your high pass you apply that to the Gaussian blur layer. It's kind of hard to do manually. It takes a few steps, and luckily Krash doesn't really have very many blemishes. It's not. This isn't really even cleaning up any blemishes. This is just me trying to clear up some of these highlights and spots. We shot at a really high ISO. It was already dark at this point, and so this is the best method. If you use something else, like you use like a Gaussian blur or something, your texture and your noise levels aren't going to transfer over. But by using frequency separation, it's going to keep the noise and stuff as you apply this to the different areas. So we got a little bit of a dark spot right here and a little bit of dark spot right here. Again, I'm in my highlights right now, my frequency editor, which lets me just modify the texture and not the tone. And then you set the clone stamp to current layer, and you can just take out some of these. Like I said, they're not even blemishes, they're just where the light kind of fell weird. I'm just trying to clean that up a little bit. You can also, on the low frequency layer, you can blend it a little bit more. And that creates a smoother tone in that area. Actually, let me turn down my flow on that because I just want to get rid of this little line right here. But it's doing it too harsh. Okay. Oh, I was on the wrong layer. So it's on the wrong layer. That's one thing about doing this is you always have to make sure you're on the right layer. So I was on the low frequency trying to modify the high frequency. So I'm going to go back to the low and just smooth that out. So now we have an even texture on our face. Looks pretty good. Next thing I'm going to do is dodge and burn. Let's see if this works on her. Usually this technique works. So with my frequency separator action, there's a lot of cool little things that you can do to make sure that you're getting rid of everything. I don't really mess with them too much typically.